game is an amateur game. I mean, the professional side of it, there are idols and heroes and fun to watch them play. But I mean, if it wasn't for amateur golf, there would be no golf.
You have to remember, when you play a golf course and you're out there for 4 hours or whatever, you're only hitting a ball for 15 minutes of that. So there's a lot of time to look around.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Top 100 Clubhouse podcast. This week it's Jasper and I. We have no guest because we're talking about the US Open and its absolute monster. I think it is called the Steel City Green Monster, Oakmont. It's famous for being formidable, Jasper.
Yeah, it's the one with the teeth. I mean, if Bethpage is known to be difficult, I mean, this is the one that would be the answer to that. It would be the battle of the two heavyweights, Bethpage Black and Oakmont. The story goes that the founder and the designer of the golf course, Mr. Phones, he had a habit of watching any professionals or any players that had a decent round. He would follow them around, and anytime they would do something on the golf course that resulted in a good score, he would basically put a ditch, a bunker, or some sort of undulation. And over a series of like years and decades, the course has evolved into what it is now, which is, a formidable test. And you add on to that, I think, open venue, US Open setup, thick, rough, tighter fairways. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch.
Well, I've heard some stories around that, and at the end of the day, that's not how we rate our golf courses. But Oakmont stays strong as being something that is one of the shining lights of great golf course architecture. So why do you think that is? What is that, because of the conscious effort that he makes, that they made early doors to wander around, and it was penalizing the good golfers, the great scores?
I mean, that might be an oversimplification. I mean, I'll just shout out straight away to the Fried Egg. They did like a really, really good kind of docu-series on it, 25-minute video. If you haven't watched that, that's a decent watch. But there was, I believe it was Jeff Ogilvy that was talking about Oakmont, and effectively you still have to play for angles. So I think it's a little bit like Royal County Down. It's an extremely difficult golf course, but it doesn't mean that it's not strategic. And I think sometimes we miss that. A lot of people kind of boil it down to penal golf course architecture is difficult, strategic is easier. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Oakmont, where you need to place your ball and where you need to leave yourself for the next shot, is just incredibly difficult to find and surrounded by effectively hazards of one type or another that make it difficult to get to where you want to go. And if you don't get there, then the next shot is compounded with difficulty. So I think in a way it is a battle of attrition. It's a very difficult golf course, but it is very strategic in its intent because you still have to set up for the next shot. So yeah, it's one of the rare ones, maybe like Pine Valley, that gets that balance right and does it really well. And it's like a knife's edge which way that goes.
Would you classify that as strategic, or could you argue that it's heroic?
Yeah, I mean, that was going through my head too. I think when you boil down, like, it's really difficult, I think, when it comes to golf course architecture to just say this whole entire course is strategic, penal, or heroic. And actually the best golf courses probably have a mix of all three, depending on what type of hole you're playing. But I mean, heroic effectively is kind of all or nothing. So a classic example is like Sawgrass's 17th. So you either get it on the green or you don't. And there's no B option. Where I think the deciding factor when it comes to strategic golf course architecture is if you take on the risk and you pull it off, your next shot is exponentially better than if you bail out and you take the easy route, the first shot, then your second one and succeeding shots will be more difficult. And I think for me, that's one way to get my head wrapped around really difficult golf courses. You know, the equivalents here in the UK, maybe like Carnoustie, Royal County Down, Port Marnock, to be fair. there's places on Port Marnock where you could be 50 yards out in the fairway, and if you're on the left side or the right side and the green tilts away from you in either direction, you will not have that shot. And you could have the softest, like spinniest hands, and it doesn't matter what shot you play, you cannot hold that green. So yeah, firm turf conditions, good strategic golf course architecture doesn't necessarily need to be easy.
No, no, it doesn't. You can see it in a lot of the top golf courses that we have in our rankings. Actually, have quite high standard or course slope rating. Sorry, not standard scratch anymore. I'm an old bastard.
And maybe that's just one.
Getting there.
That's a good one to maybe say too, James. Is in the latest rankings, now that we've unified the rankings worldwide. And we're still working on that as we go lower. We still need to do a bit of work there. But Oakmont, number 8 in the world, number 5 in North America. It's also the 5th in the USA. And then I believe in Northeast United States, it's 4th. So above it, you've got Pine Valley, Shinnecock, and NGLA. So pretty elite company. And if you want to get down to state level, first in Pennsylvania, with Marion being second. So no matter how you cut it, Oakmont is like god tier of golf courses.
Well, that's it. It sits with very rarefied air, and there has been a recent renovation project that's gone on since the last US Open. Would it be? When was the last US Open? 2016, and it's been a long process.
2016, yeah. Not? Yeah, I mean, Gil Hanse has gone in. Interesting too, did a bit of research on this, and it wasn't a pure restoration. So it's not like they're going back to a specific point in time or the original golf course and saying, right, we're putting everything back to that. The superintendent effectively said that it was a discussion between Hanse and the club as to what are the best bits between the 1920s and 1940s as to what they wanted the course to look like. And then recently, they've also kind of made some changes that weren't there before, but because of the modern game, effectively needed to be made. So just some little things with bunkering and making kind of alternative routes to the hole a little bit more fraught with danger. But by and large, the golf course remains pretty much as it was. It's almost like a greatest hits version of the golf course is what Gil Hanse has put back.
There's something that they talk about a lot, not just being a difficult golf course, but they talk about it a lot on anyone who's played it, or all the members are very proud of the fact that it's the only golf course in the US Open rota that actually slows down its greens for the US Open. And I think it's one of those things that it's everyone in links golf, I know, is trying to get POA out their greens, but I believe they're 100% POA at Oakmont. So it shows if you manage it well and keep it well, then you can get something better than anywhere else. It's, as you say, the lofty heights are very good.
And I guess that's one thing to point out too, is they've done away with a lot of the trees. I mean, even in the last few years, you look at the aerial views of those two of the golf course, and effectively there's just like a sea of grass between the holes, where before there was trees. And then POA. I mean, the thing with POA, 15,000 trees removed.
Yeah, 15,000 trees removed in over 25 years. But it's all these US Open courses are trying to remove trees. Sorry, what were you saying, Jasper? About the POA greens?
Yeah, just with POA, I mean, it is true. Like I think even around London, there are some courses that try to run POA, and in the summers they get absolutely rapid. So you can get a putting surface that probably runs a little bit quicker, or a lot quicker than typical fine grass greens. But again, if you have a really healthy budget, then it's one of those things that you can manage. And you can't push to extremes. But I think Oakmont has typically always had really, really fast greens. There's like this there's this chart that kind of makes its rounds on social media, I think from the 70s, and it puts like in order all of the top golf courses in the US and then what the green speeds are. And I think Oakmont was about 2 feet faster on the stimp than anything even like 40 years ago. So yeah, and that would have only increased. So it just shows that, I mean, to manage it well, you definitely don't want to be above the hole, especially on a lot of the greens that are like tilting away from you. If you're below the hole, that will make life infinitely easier. But yeah, it's going to be one fun one to watch.
Well, that's the thing about the TV. It's very, very bad at showing elevation change, and also making me fat. But it's really bad for elevation change, and it's there's a lot more movement in that. It's like Augusta's a great example of it. Everyone doesn't realize how much it changes from top to bottom, down to aim and corner. It's a huge drop, and at Oakmont, there is a lot of elevation change that you just can't really see or understand from a TV angle.
And I think that's true even around the greens. I mean, the pictures, you look at some of the pictures even on their website, and they've done a really good job on the website with the new photos. There's an 18-hole tour. Kind of familiarize yourself with the course before the tournament kicks off. But I mean, they look deep even from the photographs. And then you apply that to the fact that it's almost aerial and looking down. Yeah, when you're standing in those things, the lips of the bunkers are well over your head. So there's definitely be some bunkers that you're going to have to come out. I mean, church pews is another good example. If you get close to those rows, to the church rows, you've got to go sideways. There's no way that you can advance it forward. So that's one thing I really like about the bunkering at Oakmont is that you get these clusters of bunkers as opposed to like one super size bunker, and it's all of those random shots that you get in the collection of bunkers. So side hill, downhill, uphill. Up against grass verges, like all sorts of stuff going on in those collections of bunkers, as opposed to just a massive sandy waste. So I really like that feature in a golf course, and those collections of smaller bunkers as opposed to one massive bunker is like something that I'm really drawn to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of I know you've done it before. I've done it many times, but I've always been very good at taking terrible photos of greens, because greens are almost impossible to. It's so hard to visualize how much movement a green has on a camera. So when you see these, as you say, when you see them online or realize that there's severe movements in these places, it makes a 2-putt a good putt.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. If I don't know, I mean, the U.S. Open typically likes to have a score around par for whatever reason. It reinforces it's like the most brutal test in golf, I guess. I don't know, as opposed to a regular tour event.
No one likes it more than when the pros find it hard. It's so fun to watch. Come on.
I agree with you. It is so much better I mean, you just love a slow motion train wreck. And then once it kind of like the momentum goes in that direction, you wonder when it's going to stop or how it's going to stop. So yeah, no, it does make for compelling viewing. And I think the other thing too is like when the pressure's on and you're coming down the stretch, if there's always an opportunity for like massive numbers, then inevitably you'll always have some that will stumble and fall out. And like it's just more of a battle of attrition. But yeah, difficult golf courses tend to make better viewing as opposed to just a runaway. And I think that's kind of what we saw at Quail Hollow. To be honest, I didn't even watch the final round. I just checked out. So the Masters was brilliant. PGA Championship was a dud, and US Open, hopefully, I'm sure we will. The best venues always bring out the best golfers.
Okay, right. So speaking about difficulty on golf courses in the US Open, I have a quiz. Woo! Right. Okay.
Okay, good.
So
let's do it.
3 golf courses that, well, arguably the third one hasn't hit an average score of 75. in a US Open, over the whole of the US Open, average score. Do you know the 3 most challenging courses? And you can say a year, but I will give you a year because it's not that easy.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Bethpage Black, Oakmont, and Shinnecock. And the reason why I say Shinnecock, it was kind of like that famous one where Phil Mickelson kind of hit the ball twice to keep it on the green and was running all over the place without it stopping and kind of just checked out. That's probably skewed the numbers, but I'm going to go with those 3.
You are very close. It's Oakmont with an average score of 75.72 is taking the top spot. And then you have Shinnecock Hills with 75.33. So nearly half a shot per round harder than Shinnecock. And then third was Wingfoot in 2006 with 74.99.
Yeah,
So
Wingfoot, that is a good shout. Yeah.
It's that same kind of just penal rough, that really it's gonna, if you go in it, you're a disaster zone. It's a bit like, but then so is they're very similar, Bethpage Black and Wingfoot in that regard, tight, narrow fairways with penal rough. Do you want to do easiest, or should we go on to the hardest holes?
Well, we did hardest to start, so let's do easiest holes first, and then we'll go to toughest holes. How's that?
No, sorry, easiest courses. Should I just say them? People can guess.
Oh, easiest courses. Okay, yeah. Easiest courses. I'm gonna have one guess. I'm gonna say Pebble Beach does relatively is one of the easier US Open venues.
Now, it's Pebble Beach is not there because if you remember Pebble Beach in 2000,
weather.
Pebble Beach is susceptible to weather, so every time they go there, they seem to have a lot of fun with some wind. The 3 easiest ones were Erin Hills in 2017 with a then you had in Congressional was 71.25 average scoring, and then it was the LA Country Club was the easiest course third easiest so far, with that 71.38, which is quite interesting. But
I mean,
we're now
almost four shots difference between Oakmont.
It's a massive swing, right? That's per round.
4 shots, yeah.
So if you're
huge.
thinking that that's 12 shots. Sorry, not 12 shots. I'm an idiot. 16 shots over a weekend.
16 shots.
That's the difference between
everyone 4-day tournament, 16 shots
or level par. It's huge difference,
right? Yeah, it's huge. I mean, at that height of the game, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's intense. I mean, it just shows how difficult the golf course is.
Okay, so hardest holes in US Open golf. I have a feeling I'm looking at the wrong list because I asked for it over 20 years and it's given me it since 2000. Oh no, here we go. Oh no, it's given me since 2000. So I've got it from since 2000, Jasper. What do you think is the hardest hole in golf in the US Open since 2000?
I wouldn't even know where to start, to be totally honest with you. Since we're talking Oakmont, I'm just going to say this is a wild card, but I'm going to say first hole at Oakmont. It's just massive. You got the nerves. You've got out of bounds, and the green runs away from you. It's got to be near that. I mean, it's half a shot, I think.
It had 161 bogeys in 2016. 161. That is so many bogeys.
Was that the most difficult?
That was the 5th most difficult. I can. Do you want me to rattle off?
So after that, I'm out. Tapped out. Yeah,
14th
go ahead.
At Pebble Beach in 2000 was apparently the toughest par 5 since 1970. The 18th at Merion.
Wow.
Had a total bogey or worse at 261. There being a par 4, average scoring was 4.7. It was up there with another one that actually it was second to Wing Foot's 18th in 2006, which was 4.71 average scoring, and that was when Mickelson double bogey cost him the championship in 2006. And then so we've got 2 Oakmonts in the top 10, and that's the 10th and the 1st, both averaging 4.45, which I thought would be higher. Now, this is one that I think is very interesting. There's 10 courses. I've got a list up here of the fewest total birdies for a week, for the whole of the 4 days in US Open golf. So this is, as much as bogeys matter, difficulty shown by how you can approach the hole, and if you're getting chances, you can make birdies and pars. But if you can't, you've got strategic play around the difficulty of the hole, and accept the fate of a par or a bogey. Right. So the fewest birdies in US Open golf history, with a total of 29 birdies over the 4 days, was Oakmont's first in 2016.
26.
Sorry, 29.
29.
Only 29 birdies in the whole of the 4 days.
Yeah, that's mad. That is mad. What's typical field? 152 or 148, something like that, for at least the first few days. And then drops down after that. But still, I mean, that's 280
plus 120 because it's 6 or 70 each, so 140. 420 blows at the first hole over the 4 days, and only 29 birdies. And these are the best players in the world. Now, what makes it interesting is Oakmont actually has 3 golf holes in the top 10 fewest birdies in the US Open golf, which is wild.
So it must be 1. So 1 is number 1. I mean, that's a difficult start. 9, which is a phenomenal green, kind of big square thing coming back to the clubhouse, which is pretty cool. I'm going to say 9, 1, 9, and it's got to be something on the back 9, mid 15, 14 or 15 probably. Probably 15. 15. It had to be 15. That's what I'm going to go with.
The 4th fewest birdies ever in US Open golf is Oakmont's 10th, and the 10th fewest birdies in US Open golf at 70 is Oakmont's 8th.
8.
So,
okay.
Par 3. Now, the reason
that makes sense.
Reason I bring that up is because I thought it was really interesting that the 1st and the 10th, unless they've rotated the 9s or changed the 9s somehow or done something, which I don't think they have, it's the opening hole of the 2 9s. So there's obviously a mental thing that they wanted you to start your round with something impossible.
Yeah, and that's got to be. Yeah, I mean, if they can unnerve you on the first one and then you're on the back foot for the rest of the round, like just trying to get, if you bogey the opening hole and then it doesn't ease up after that, it's going to be a long day. And then you start the second 9 fresh start and you're after it again. So yeah, there definitely is some mental agility that would be needed to navigate that, especially if you bogeyed both of them.
It's quite interesting. It's like the opposite of what you're recommended in golf course architecture. You're meant to have the guys like Mackenzie and Colt always thought getting people away off the first tee was a good thing.
Top100golfcourses.com has set the standard for golfers worldwide, and now you can wear that standard proudly. Premium apparel and exclusive gear for those who truly know the game. Shop now at top100golfcourses.com.
So here's a top one for you. So Johnny Miller, Oakmont is the home of Johnny Miller's 63. I think at the time it was a par 72. That was always the big discussion. The par 3 8th was the only hole that he bogeyed. So he he found the green in regulation, one shot, but he 3-putted for bogey and still carded his 63 on a par 72 in US Open history. And when you look, I think the clubs he had, it's like a 1-3-5 persimmon, and then like 2-9 iron and a wedge. Like there is no 7 woods, 9 woods, big drivers, utility clubs, anything. I mean, Johnny Miller was like really feeling it that day. Yeah, proper golf that.
Yeah, he's definitely not getting the shock back from the shank. There's yeah, that must have been. Imagine walking out of. You must have not even felt it. It must have just been like in the zone. It's like when the closest I can ever get is playing beer pong and you just hold everything. Just holding everything. And
then you can't remember it anyways.
And you just feel like you're top of the world. Like I am the great. I am the one.
I mean, that is some going. 63 with, imagine that could have been a 62 fairly easily. But then to go on a run, even with that, from a little stumble at 8 and then make the turn and then run the gauntlet of the back 9 and still card a 63, that's pretty impressive. So is it the greatest round of all time? Maybe the listeners can comment, see what they think. Is Johnny Miller's 63 actually the greatest US Open round in golf history? Interesting question.
I think the only thing I want to comment on that everyone will see on Instagram or doing getting sent around WhatsApp groups or iMessage groups is the rough, because it is thick, luscious. I've got it here. It's a rye bluegrass cross thing, whatever, and you see how thick, and it's just a chip out. Most old men's arms and hands wouldn't be able to get through it, let alone my hands. I'll probably miss it. But the thing is, when you're trying to get through, I don't know if you've ever placed your ball on a lawn grass that's grown too long and it's just sat down and you just tried to hack at it. Imagine that, but thicker, and it's quite a cool way of doing it, because it's not long. It's not that long. It's you can find your ball, but good luck getting anywhere near these impossible to land on and stay on greens.
Well, I think that's the thing too, is that with the golf course the way it is, with those greens sat at the angles and at grade, all the rest of it, things like trajectory, the angle that you're coming in from, and spin will all be very important in playing well. And you give all of that up once you go into the rough. So it's going to be an interesting one, because this is always the debate when you get to these golf courses with like uber long rough. Is it just a power game? So will Bryson and Rory just overpower the course and kind of drive it up as far as they can, gouge it out, and just try and rely upon putting in the short game? That's one tack that no doubt a lot of players will take. But it also seems to also reward strategic play played from the right angles, the way that the course was designed to be played. So could this be like a sneaky one where
Luke Donald
or Keegan Bradley, Luke Donald, exactly? Chances
Harmon.
are no. But I mean Brian Harmon. It just shows what can happen. Like on any given week when you get really, really hot. What was it? He never missed any putts inside 8 feet all week during tournament conditions at Hoylake. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
I don't think people understand how good that is. If you haven't been to Hoylake, the greens at Hoylake are extremely subtle. And in bad weather like that, it can be one little gust of wind and your ball is on a different line, different path. That was incredible. I mean, like, he must have made a deal with the devil. Just to be able to read
honestly,
that well that week. I can understand it when greens are obvious, right? So you know which way it's going. But the greens at Hoylake are very, very subtle, and the break is always misjudged. I mean, constantly misjudged. So I don't know what he did. He must have, yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing feat. The holes, what is it? Feet hold, something like that is just off the charts. But yeah, an interesting display. Will that happen again? I would say that if that was going to happen, probably a place like Oakmont isn't going to be the place where it happens, just because of how treacherous the greens are. But that being
there's a fear
said,
to them.
really fast, really true.
But there is a fear to them because they'll put pin positions in areas where if you if you put yourself short for the safe play and you have an 8-foot putt to birdie and you miss it beyond the hole, you're now 10-foot past because the ball does move when it's at 15 on the stimp. It's just going to keep going. It's not going to stop. It'll find a hollow to stop.
And that's an interesting one too. You mentioned that just greens, because that's one thing. Like the greens have been expanded quite a lot. So I mean, this is a good thing for a lot of clubs to remember. Like, look, we talk about Augusta National, and everybody looks at that and says, "Oh, why can't our course look like that?" And it's like, well, it can. If you had an unlimited budget and unlimited manpower for like 4 days a year, you could make your golf course look like that. You know, it's just it's an ornamental garden for 4 days. And Oakmont, it's one of the top 10 golf courses in the world, and it's still with all the manpower, all of the eyes of the world on it. Gil Hunt still comes in and says, "Boys, we've let our green sizes shrink, so we're gonna like push them back out." So if this can happen at Oakmont, like guaranteed, it's happening at your golf course. Even if you have the most like switched on head greenkeeper, there's probably little things that you could miss, and that's why you pay someone who knows what they're doing as a golf course architect to come in and just point out things that you've missed. Because when you're looking at the same golf course day in, day out, things start to look the same. You start to miss little things. And actually, it's those little details at the top tier of the game that really pushes it that next step further. I mean,
now I do have a question for you. Sprinklers. So green sprinklers, were they the biggest shrinker of golf greens ever? Or is it over time more than anything else? Could be both, but I've been to many golf courses. You can see the green pad's massive, but the sprinklers don't go far enough to the center of the green, so they have had to put sprinklers in and bring the green in, shrink the green because of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. So the throw on the sprinkler head, and things like, honestly, is like just so throw things like water pressure. Like how far can you actually get water out at a consistent stream across that green site? And that's why typically you will get green sprinklers on the edges of greens, and they have overlapping. So there's a whole way to organize the way your sprinkler head should go and the way that they should be. There's an art and a science to it. Yeah, and typically, I think you're right, James. You don't see sprinklers in the middle of greens, so a lot of times green sizes are just kept smaller. Unless Streamsong was a good example where we were at in January, where some of the greens, I believe, on the black course, just so massive that you had sprinkler heads in them, and some of them very. They've also got like a little like cap on them that's got AstroTurf on it. So if they've done really well, sometimes you don't even see them. So I think they are becoming a little bit more commonplace than they were previously. But that's probably it's the same as fairway irrigation. When it was single row down the center of a fairway, and everybody got used to playing off really lush grass, the fairways just came in. So you didn't have this band of green and then a bunch of brown grass and then the rough for the edges of the fairway. Basically, just everything got brought in to as far as and then you had the next iteration of that when clubs got more money was we'll put irrigation lines down the edges of the fairway with the heads pointed in. So we have thin, wispy rough, but nice fairways in the middle. And now you're starting to get like triple line irrigation. So again, whether it's good or not, I mean, I've been in the west of Ireland this week playing on golf courses that don't even have greenkeepers, let alone irrigation. And I mean, the turf has been amazing. And I think that's the thing is you start spending money, and when you spend money on turf, it creates like this vicious cycle. So you feed the turf, and then you you enrich the turf, and then you've got a hollow overseed, and then you've got to and it just becomes like this. For everything that you do to improve it, you've also got to take out nutrients to get it back to the way it was originally. And it's just this endless cycle once you start down that path. And actually, having sheep on links land just nibbling the grass is the best way to play golf.
Well, interestingly, there was at one point the grass was so thick at Oakmont that they did have sheep on the rough. That's how they dealt with thickness of the rough at Oakmont, and to keep it an even height, because sheep don't like to eat the root; they eat they like the top ends of the grass. Really random, but
it's interesting.
Modern day more.
It's interesting you say that. Absolutely. And I believe it was Henry Founds or Phones. Sorry, I say Founds. Henry Phones. He came over to Scotland around the turn of the century to basically do like a CB Macdonald type exercise and come and see the great courses in the British Isles at the time, and learn like what golf was all about. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you would have seen livestock grazing on the links land. So hey, if it works in Scotland, it's going to work in America. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Right. Okay. I think we've probably rattled on long enough and discussed a few interesting topics around our Oakmont US Open. Who do you think is going to win it, Jasper?
Yeah, I'm going back with Rory. I called Rory for the Masters, which wasn't a popular bet. I didn't put any money on it. But there you go. So you always bemuse the ones that you don't bet on. But I'm going to say Rory again. I think after he got it out of his system at the PGA, he had a little flash there for a bit, but I think he's going to be back on it for Oakmont. I think the PGA Championship in Quail Hollow, that was not a missed opportunity. He was just getting through the hangover of the Masters win, but I think he's going to be keen to show Scotty Scheffler who's number one in town. So I'm going to say Rory. And you?
I'm just looking it up. I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa. He's been in and out of form. He's kind of, but he's getting there. He's still shaky, but if he's the kind of guy that is incredibly accurate with the driver, incredible iron player, that could get away with doing something pretty special if he just goes on a wee run like Johnny Miller did. It's one of those things. I like the idea of the accurate golfer for this Oakmont trip. I like the Aaron Rai did quite well at the PGA, but fell off, Give him a wee top 20 flutter. I don't know.
Do you know what, Aaron Rai? He's one that has been coming up quite a lot. Yeah, his name's just been on the top of the leaderboard week in, week out. I'm just looking up. We've odds-on favorite is Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Bryson, John Rahm. Even though he blew up at the PGA, he's still in there. Xander, Colin Morikawa, 20-1 odds. James, same as Ludwig Oberg. So okay. It's I don't know. I mean, we'll have to get in touch with our friend there who does the odds making, but it does look like it kind of looks like the same favorites, like odds-on favorites for Joaquin Niemann. Everybody's been touting him as being like kind of the best golfer not on the PGA, and he's kind of been absent in most majors.
He's been
yeah. Tyrrell Hatton always seems to make an appearance. He always seems to do well and then doesn't get it across the line. What do you think about this though? Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood has like an absurd amount of top 10s or even top 5s in tournaments on the PGA Tour, but not a win yet. Do you think his first win could be a major? What do you think?
My thing about Tommy Fleetwood is, I hope he's not listening. My big thing about Tommy Fleetwood and a lot of players is what Tiger Woods did. Okay, what Tiger Woods and Rory have done, and a lot of the guys have done, where you've gone from being incredible for 20 years, right? That is unheard of in sport. if you're playing football, rugby, ice hockey, or anything, you normally have, if you're not winning constantly or scoring constantly, you normally have a period of about 2 years where you're at your best. And if you can't win in that period, then you're never going to win. And it becomes not just a mental block, but it becomes you've already played your best golf. That's you done. You played your best sport.
Yeah.
You can revel in the fact that you got to that point where you were playing in the top 10 in the world, but you just couldn't get it over the line. And it's very rarefied air where you have people like Phil Mickelson, like Scotty Scheffler, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy. Scotty Scheffler hasn't been tested yet. He could fall off. Look at Jordan Spieth. Look at Thomas. So you have your benchmark that's your best, and it's very rare that people fall from that and come back. That's my honest opinion. Rory's one of the few that have done it, but Rory, as we all know, is the most talented person on the tour. So I don't know.
We got to say too, I mean, this could be, if Phil somehow pulls out, Phil needs the US Open to complete the Grand Slam. So it was Jordan Spieth's opportunity at the PGA, another whiff. And Phil needs PGA or US Open to complete Grand Slam. So he's 250 to 1 odds on Betway currently as we record. But I mean, another one it's interesting. They seem to be high on Brooks Koepka, and he just completely bombed out on every single tournament. Tyrrell Hatton might be a dark horse. Here's one fellow Canadian, Corey Connors, solid player, but not sure. And it seems like Max Homa has also got the monkey off his back. He's had a tough year, but he seems to be rounding into form. So there we go. A couple of ideas. Again, if you if you knew how much money I made and didn't make on betting, then you wouldn't listen to anything I've just said. So
no. If you saw how many zeros are in my Betfred account, then you'd be no. So if you comment below or comment somewhere, I don't know where, do you think it's going to be bombers and gougers, or do you think it's going to be the accurate guys that win it? It'll be interesting to get a wee poll out on Instagram or something like that, just to see what people think. But thank you very much, Jasper. I think we'll leave it there. You go and enjoy your pink gin. And I'm
pink gin, Keem Bay. So yeah, Keem Bay, West Mayo. So not known for its deep golf, but I'm enjoying myself in the west of Ireland. We'll have a subsequent pod coming up where we discuss Dublin golf and then Mayo golf. So pretty much seeing most of golf and Mayo, and then we get on to Donegal. But hopefully back over sometime during the summer, finish up a few of the courses around Dublin that I've not been able to see. And then a couple over, I want to get to Sligo and Strand Hill. Those are two that are outstanding, that are big holes for me. So if they are listening, there we go. Hopefully we'll see you later on in the summer. But yeah, thanks as always, James.
Jasper, just one last question before we leave. Can you get ketchup there? Can you get ketchup in Mayo?
Ketchup, no, Mayo only. That's it.
Right, okay. Thanks very much, everyone. And if you want to get in touch, it's James at top100golfcourse.com. Got a couple of cool emails recently. Or just get in touch slip into our DMs. People do. You'd be surprised to hear they do slip into our DMs. Well, thank you very much, Jasper, and enjoy the rest of your trip. And thank you very much, everyone, for listening.